Hello friends, welcome back. I'm Svenja from Svenja Christina Photography, and today I'm going to show you how to change the color of an object using the curves and levels adjustment layers. In Photoshop there is always more than one way to get things done. Previously I talked about the color balance adjustment layer and the hue saturation adjustment layer, which are also tools to help you change color. So grab your coffee and let's get started right away. I'm going to grab the curves layer and I'm going to take my mask of the dress, put it right here. I used the Option key and dragged it up. Now I have my curves layer here, and it is very similar to the color balance layer with regards to the channels, because if I click into red here, I have red on this side and cyan on that side. So if I drag it down, I get a really nice cyan look here. If I drag it up, I get a red look. Again, the objective here is to change the dress color from midnight blue to a fiery, sparkly red. Well, just red. Let's keep it simple. Here you don't have the specification of midtones and highlights and like you kind of do by adjusting the ends, but I find it's easier to do with a color balance layer. The curves is easier to adjust the midtones with, I find. So if I drag it down, it gets really pink here. If I drag it up, we're gonna get that here, this yellowy sparkle. And then I'm going to my blues, and this way here would add blues. This is not what I want. I want to add yellows. Now we have orange, so I'm going back into my red. I want more red in my shadows. Like, you can change the color here, but I find it a lot more challenging to do it here. With the curves, I just have to add a control here. Now what I've done was I took the highlights and I put that towards the cyan part, and I'm taking the shadows and I'm gonna lift them into the reds. Can also do that here by playing with that. This goes to show that with a curves layer, you can also make these modifications. And with levels as well. Again, I'm going to take my mask, press the Option key, and lift it up here. Now I'm on levels, and it's the same concept. You have red as opposed to cyan. So if I drag it this way, we're going to get cyan. If I drag it this way, we're going to get red. And then you can adjust the highlights. This way in is red. That way in is red. This way in is cyan. This way in is cyan. So they're kind of on opposite ends. And you have again the green as opposed to magenta. So you drag it this way, it's getting the magentas. You drag it that way, it's getting the greens. And then again, if you go in here, you get green. Ooh, this is a nice one here. I like that one. And if you get in here, you're also gonna affect the greens. But look, this is making it really like neon-y. So you have to be careful with these here. And opposites, can I put that back here? You have the magenta, and you have the magenta here as well. And lastly, we have blue and yellow. So this way is the yellows. You have a mustardy color, you have a royal blue color. This just goes to show that there are many ways in Photoshop to tackle a problem. This way is the blues. So you know that way is blue as well. And this way is yellow. And that way is yellow. And that affects the midtones. Now that we know how the levels slider is working, let's actually change the color of the dress to red. So I'm going into the red channel. And in the previous tutorial, I explained that this dress is made out of a lot of shadows and highlights. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna take the shadow area of the reds and I'm going to drag it in, making it darker. And I'm also going in and take the highlights slider and make it darker as well, but I find it still too magenta, so I'm going to see what the midtones do. I'm dragging them left. So we have some sort of a red here, but to me it's still too pink. So I'm going into my blues slider, my blue channel, and I'm gonna push yellow in it. So for yellow, I have to drag towards the right, and now we're getting more of a reddish hue, and we just have to start playing around here. This is, oops, that's the wrong one, that's the blues. If I wanted to add more yellows to the shadows, I would have to bring this little black triangle more in, and if I wanted to add more highlights, more yellow highlights, I would have to drag this little slider on the bottom in. Now we have a fairly intense red here, and if that's too much, I can always come and change the opacity and tone it down that way. Or if I wanted it darker, I can come into the RGB slider and pull it towards the right. This darkens everything. We're at 100% opacity, and now we've darkened it. So there's options to make this dress red using the levels slider as well. I like using curves for color adjustments for specific values. So for example, say I wanted to make her skin green. I'm gonna use a curves layer. I don't really have her skin masked out here, so other tones that have this tone would appear green as well. I'm gonna click in here. We're gonna go into the channel, into the green channel, and then I'm gonna click here. And I'm going to start to lift it up because I want the greens. So you want to add the greens because they're on the upper half. But if I were to change her skin towards pink, I would just have to drag it down. But I said I wanted to color her skin green, so I have to drag this all the way up, and then I would have to mask it out. So press Command I to invert it, and then use the brush, and you want to make sure it's a white brush so you can paint the effect on. This is going to be just a quick and dirty effect, not really that great of a mask, but you see what I mean. This is really great. Like with curves, you can very precisely change the tones of certain parts of the image. That's what I like using it for, but I wouldn't necessarily use it to change a dress color. I would use the hue saturation layer for that. Or the color balance layer, because they're just easier to target certain things. You do what you find easiest to do, and you roll with it. You look a little bit like that, I think her name is Gamora, from the Marvel series. That was unintentional. I think it's Gamora. Might be someone else. I haven't watched it in a while. Well, my children are about to come into this house. I better conclude this tutorial. I hope you had a great time hanging out with me here doing Photoshop work and drinking coffee. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like, a thumbs up, and a subscribe. And if you haven't already, turn on the notifications and make sure you did, because that will tell you when my next video comes out. If you have any questions for me about this tutorial, about anything else that is editing related, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help. Have a wonderful week until I see you again. Until then, my friends. Bye bye. Now I get to my kids.